Let's talk player props for the NFL Divisional Round Playoffs. What's going on, everybody? Today we are going to be focusing on the players that are set to make headlines this weekend. I put out a video yesterday with my favorite picks from the major markets, the spreads, the over-unders, if you want to go check that out. But like I said, today it's all about the player props. Who's going to pop off? Who's going to disappoint? Who are we looking at to win us some money this weekend? Let me tell you who I like. Real quick though, before we jump into the video, make sure that you guys have subscribed to the channel. We've been coming out with betting picks and all sorts of content throughout the playoffs, and we are going to continue that all the way in the run up to the Super Bowl. But without further ado, let's start this off, and let's start by talking about the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Houston Texans. My favorite player prop in this game, Stroud over 238.5 passing yards. Now, I live right next to Washington, D.C., so I'm about 30 to 40 minutes away from Baltimore. It's not very nice weather right now. There's some snow on the ground. It's about 20 degrees. It's not necessarily been windy, but it's been bone-chilling type of cold. But I don't think that's going to matter a whole lot from a passing yardage perspective. If teams aren't going to be as sharp or things like that, maybe the game plans differ a little bit, then I'm not going to argue with you. But hey, I mean, we saw what Patrick Mahomes did in a real feel of -30. We saw Josh Allen find some success through the air against the Steelers. These teams are going to be capable of throwing the ball, especially with, you know, it's not like it's freezing cold. It's in the 20s. They're going to have the field cleared. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially without any wind. Now, the reason that I like Stroud here, and CJ Stroud's first professional game, he went on the road to Baltimore and had 242 passing yards. I talked about this in my preview of the game yesterday. Are you telling me that CJ Stroud has gotten worse? Are you telling me that he can't throw for the same amount of yardage that he did in week 1? Look, I know the Ravens have an incredible defense. They led the league in sacks and takeaways, and they allowed the fewest points per game. I get all of that. But the Texans, first of all, have just been lights out with Stroud in the field. And then also, he just doesn't really turn the ball over. He's got 5 interceptions all year, a 1% turnover rate, the lowest in the league. So those drives, they're not ending prematurely. He's going to be on the field for longer. And at this point, he's got all the confidence in the world. He just obliterated one of the best defenses in the league in the Browns. He's won back-to-back do-or-die games, and you look at his connection he's got with Nico Collins, and you just say he's giving him chances. It's like Tony Romo with Dez Bryant or Matt Stafford with Calvin Johnson. Not in terms of quality, but they're putting the ball up there and saying, I've done my job. Now let the receiver go make a play on the football. And when you need passing yards, that's what you need. You need your quarterback to take chances, and CJ Stroud will do that. I mentioned Nico Collins. I like him here to have a big day, 80.5 receiving yards or an anytime touchdown scorer. I think both of those are solid investments. He's the clear-cut #1 option in this Texans passing offense with Tank Dell out due to a season-ending injury. As far as the touchdowns go, he scored 8 touchdowns in the regular season, also scored last week. He's now scored in 6 of his last 9 games. And again, Stroud, in his first game ever, played a clean game against the Ravens. I feel like he can go out there and do the same this weekend. A lot of people want to know about Lamar. How's he going to do? In 4 playoff games, he's got a passer rating below 70, and in 3 of those, he's been held under 200 passing yards. I think that he can put together a good game. You look at what he's done in his last 2 games, the 2 biggest games of the year. Had 321 yards against the Miami Dolphins, 252 against the San Francisco 49ers. The Texans ranked 23rd in average passing yards allowed. They gave up 234 per game and allowed Joe Flacco to hit 307 in the wild card. So I would probably bet the over on Lamar too. His line's at about 228.5 in this one. Not as strong of a lean on that one. I feel like the Ravens could run the ball as they so often do, but I would probably be going with the over on Lamar as well. The second game on Saturday, we got the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers. My favorite play in this game, Christian McCaffrey over 127.5 rushing plus receiving yards. Now, the 49ers, in my opinion, are going to look to establish the run. Not just because that's what they do, but Jordan Love is one of the hottest players in the NFL right now. 23 total touchdowns, 1 interception in his last 9 games. If you're the 49ers, you want to hold him on the sideline. You don't want to let him find any sort of rhythm. The key to doing that is running the ball, and then of course the jet sweeps, the screens, the little dump offs, the checkdowns, all that stuff. But the bottom line is you want to get McCaffrey involved. That has not been a problem problem for the 49ers this season. They've rode him to probably an offensive player of the year campaign. He's averaging better than 5 yards per carry. And when you look at Green Bay's defense, they did a good job defending against Tony Pollard and the Cowboys running game last week. But during the regular season, they were only 28th in rushing defense, allowed 128.3 rushing yards per game. I think you see McCaffrey capitalize on that. I talked about it in my video yesterday. I have the 49ers covering. That means to me they're probably going to be running the ball a hell of a lot more down the stretch too than they would if they were trailing. So that also sits up well for McCaffrey going over on that line. Some of the other props that I like in this game: Jaden Reed over 41.5 receiving yards for the Packers. He did not catch a ball last week, only got 3 targets, but I think that is part of the reason that you're going to see Jordan Love come out, try to get his favorite guy more involved. Reed, like I said, led them in regular season receiving yards, about 50 per game. I think Jordan Love comes out, looks in his direction, tries to get him going. I also think there's a chance the San Francisco defense shades itself towards Romeo Doubs because he had a career day, 151 yards and a touchdown last week. So maybe they're trying to stop the hot hand, and that opens up Love's favorite target this season, Jaden Reed. As far as touchdown scores in this game, McCaffrey's a minus 320 to score. If you want to include that in a parlay, then I guess go for it. I don't love betting anything with minus 300 or worse odds. I don't love betting anything with minus 200 or worse odds as a straight. But then again, McCaffrey is a near lock to score. He scored in more than 80% of his games this season, so it's probably a safe bet that he finds the end zone. Going on over to the Sunday games, let's talk about the Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. I like Baker Mayfield to have a strong day in this one. Looking at what he's done recently, he's red hot right now. Just had 337 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Philadelphia Eagles. He's gone over. He's going to need to have a big day. His line's at about 263.5. But you know what? The Lions just allowed Matt Stafford to go for 367 last week. And they also allowed Stafford to go for 10.2 yards per attempt. Not per completion, per attempt. This Buccaneers team, they want to move the ball down the field, and they're going against the Lions defense that allowed the 3rd most passing yards per game. Only the Commanders and the Eagles had worse secondaries than the Lions did. So again, with Baker playing the way that he has been playing, and also this style of game, because we know Detroit's going to move the ball. We know that. They've got too much talent with Goff and Gibbs and Montgomery and St. Brown and Ben Johnson at the controls and Dan Campbell's aggressiveness. If you're Baker and the Bucs, you're going to need to respond. That comes from the vertical passing game. I think you see him have a pretty strong day there. Conversely, I would look at the under on Jared Goff. I don't think that the Lions are going to need to throw the ball as much as the Bucs do, because the Bucs struggle to run, which is another reason to go with Baker's over. I think if you're the Lions, you can get more balance from the ground game. Also, the Bucs did a tremendous job forcing pressure last week. They got to Jalen Hurts in an average of 2.5 seconds, tied for the fastest in Hurts' career. Goff has one of the worst QBRs in the league when he's facing pressure. So I think you're going to see Todd Bowles show a real commitment to blitzing 6-7 guys, making Jared Goff uncomfortable. And if that happens, then first of all, you can run around the blitz. But second of all, Goff's probably going to struggle to throw the ball. So I'll look at the under on Goff's passing yards in this instance. And other than that, I don't love touchdown scorers. I think you can make a case for Gibbs, Montgomery, Mike Evans, Amon-Ra, all these guys. Again, said it in my video yesterday, this game is going to be a battle of the red zone for me. I think both teams are going to move the ball up and down the field between the 20s, but once they get close to the goal line, how can they convert their opportunities? Tampa Bay had one of the stingiest red zone defenses in the NFL this season. That is going to be the key for me. So the over on Baker, the under on Goff, those are a couple of plays that I like in this game. And then the big game of the weekend, the trilogy match between the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. I've got a lot of picks in this one, and some I like more than others, but you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to share them all with you. So one play that I do really like is the under on Patrick Mahomes' passing attempts. I know I had to dig deep in the bag for that one. Mahomes' line is at 37.5 attempts, and he threw 41 passes last week. So I know you're probably thinking, if he threw 41 passes in negative 30, a real feel of negative 30, why would I bet the under in this instance? Well, in that game, the Chiefs held the ball for more than 34 minutes. That was more than 2.5 minutes more than their average for the season. And if you applied it to the season and just say, one team held the ball for 34 minutes, well, that would have led the league by more than a minute and a half. The bottom line being here that the Buffalo Bills, with their commitment to running the ball and their success running the ball with Joe Brady, they're not going to allow the Chiefs to possess the ball for that long, which inherently creates less opportunities for Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball. Also, both of these teams want to keep the opposing offense off of the field, which I think means you're going to see both of them lean into the run a whole lot more. Isaiah Pacheco just recorded a season-high 24 carries against the Dolphins last week. He's also scored a touchdown in 5 straight games, and he's averaging 17 carries per game over his last 7 games. So, again, lean into Pacheco. I feel like you're going to wait to see him deal some damage in this spot, and that's just going to also give Mahomes less passing opportunities. Also, the Bills, their defense is good, don't get me wrong, but if there's a weakness to it, they were just about league average in rushing yards allowed per game. So again, I feel like you're going to see them lean into that. And if Mahomes has to be Superman late in the game, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be putting up 50 passing attempts. He's going to take off and run. He's willing to lay his body on the line, especially in the postseason. We've seen it happen before. I feel like you got to look at the under there. Talking about quarterbacks running the ball, though, my absolute favorite player prop in this game, maybe my favorite player prop of the weekend, Josh Allen over 43.5 rushing yards. There's no questioning Josh Allen's commitment or ability to running the football. He had 74 yards on the ground last week, 67 yards the week before that, and in 2 playoff encounters with the Chiefs, he went for 68 and 88 rushing yards. So he's been really good lately, and he's been really good against the Chiefs when they have met. Joe Brady really favors the run, and Josh Allen is a big part of that. Over the last 3 games, he's running the ball more than 11 times per game, and as good as Kansas City's defense is, they allowed the 8th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks, and that's despite them not facing Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts or these other scrambling quarterbacks. One of the big reasons for that, Kansas City was 2nd in sacks. If you collapse the pocket on a mobile quarterback, there's a good chance that quarterback will take off and run. Josh Allen does not hesitate when given the opportunity. You got to look at the over on his rushing yards. I also think Dalton Kincaid can have a big game here. Now, he's not getting an enormous target share. However, he did record close to double his targets from weeks, I'm trying to do some mental math here, from weeks 14 to 16 over his last 3 games. In other words, in the last 3 weeks, he had 23 targets and he had 12 in the 3 weeks before that. So you've seen a noticeable uptick. He also averaged 77 yards over his last 3 games, easily cleared this line in all of them. In fact, he was over 55 yards in all of those games. Opposing defenses have to show so much attention to Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, Gabe Davis that Kincaid, a first-round rookie, has actually come good pretty well lately. He's come good pretty recently. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. The point being, Kincaid is a sneaky option. He's had an increased role in the 3 most important games of the season. Every passing week is the Bills' most important week, and you've seen Josh Allen lean into Kincaid, so I feel like you could look at him to have a big day as well. And then Isaiah Pacheco over 63.5 rushing yards. Sticking with what I said about Mahomes going under on his passing attempts, everything about Pacheco's aggressiveness and physicality says that he is the man to lean into in a Sunday night playoff matchup in the Buffalo Cold, or the Orchard Park Cold, if you will. He carried the ball 24 times last week for 89 yards. Over his last 7 games, like I said, averaging more than 17 carries per game and more than 80 rushing yards per game. He didn't play against Buffalo when these teams met in the regular season, but he was a part of the Chiefs' run to the Super Bowl last year, so you know that he's going to have an appreciation for the magnitude of this game. Buffalo allowed 110 rushing yards per game during the regular season. They're going to have to show a lot of love to Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce because those are the 2 main threats in the passing game. That should open up space for Pacheco, and I like him to have a big day. Boy, I feel like I just ran a mile. I'm sorry if I was running through that. Had to get through it pretty quickly. We had a lot of props that I wanted to get to. But guys, now the pressure's off of me. The pressure's on you. I want you to jump in the comments. Let me know which of these plays do you like, which of them do you not like, and what are your favorite plays for this weekend? If you've got a favorite play in each game or favorite play for Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is, let me know. Drop a comment. I am always responding to everybody. Like this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel for even more sports betting content, especially in the NFL playoffs. And I will catch you guys all in the next one.